On the 12th of January 1944, the pristine sands of Westward Ho in Devon became the stage for one of the most absurd spectacles of the Second World War. The entire senior leadership of the British military had gathered. Admirals, generals, and scientists stood atop a pebble ridge, binoculars in hand. They were there to witness the ultimate secret weapon for D-Day, a weapon designed to smash Hitler's Atlantic Wall and save thousands of Allied lives. What they witnessed instead was not a triumph of engineering, but a 10-foot flaming wheel careening across the beach, shedding rockets in every direction. Within minutes, Britain's top brass were abandoning their dignity, diving face-first into barbed wire to escape a mechanical monster that was chasing them down the sand. And amidst the smoke and panic, the only creature enjoying the day was an Airedale terrier named Ammonal, who was happily chasing the screaming projectiles. Welcome to Ungentlemanly Engineering. Today, we are looking at the Great Panjandrum, the weapon that proved that sometimes the line between genius and madness isn't just thin, it is completely non-existent. To understand why anyone thought a rocket-propelled wheel was a good idea, we must first understand the terror of the Atlantic Wall. By 1943, Hitler had poured 17 million cubic meters of concrete into the French coastline. This was not just a wall, it was a killing ground. We are talking about bunkers with walls 10 feet high and 7 feet thick, reinforced with steel bars capable of withstanding direct hits from battleship guns. Field Marshal Rommel had laid over 500,000 foreshore obstacles, Belgian gates, Czech hedgehogs, and wooden stakes tipped with mines. The tragedy of the Dieppe raid in August 1942 had proven exactly how deadly this could be. Canadian forces suffered 68% casualties. Tanks that reached the shore got stuck on pebble beaches and were picked off like sitting ducks. The lesson was brutal but clear. Conventional methods would not work. Sending infantry against those walls was suicide. Artillery from ships lacked the precision to crack open a 10-foot concrete bunker. The Allies needed a way to deliver a massive explosive charge, over 1 long ton, directly to the wall, instantly creating a breach for tanks to drive through. But how do you get a ton of explosives up a beach under heavy fire without getting everyone killed? Enter the Directorate of Miscellaneous Weapons Development, DMWD, affectionately known in the Admiralty as the Wheezers and Dodgers. This department was essentially a government-funded shed for mad scientists. Their documented philosophy was, never take no for an answer. The task fell to Lieutenant Commander Neville Shute Norway. Today, he is remembered as a famous novelist who wrote A Town Like Alice. But in 1943, he was a brilliant aeronautical engineer. Shute calculated that to breach the Atlantic Wall, the device needed to carry 4,000 pounds of high explosive, reach speeds of 60 miles per hour to avoid enemy fire, and smash directly into the concrete. His solution was the Panjandrum. The name came from an 18th century nonsense poem by Samuel Foote that ends with the line, "Until the gunpowder ran out at the heels of their boots." A prophetic name, as it turned out. The design was deceptively simple. 2 massive wooden wheels, 10 feet in diameter, connected by a central drum packed with explosives. To move this 4,000-pound beast, they bolted dozens of cordite rockets to the rim of the wheels. No engine, no crew, just raw, unguided rocket power. The testing took place at Westward Ho, chosen because its pebble ridge resembled the beaches of Normandy. Unfortunately, it was also a popular holiday destination. Maintaining secrecy was impossible because every time they lit the fuse, crowds of holidaymakers gathered to watch the fireworks. And the fundamental problem they faced was physics, specifically the difference between thrust and torque. When you mount rockets on the circumference of a wheel, you are creating rotational force. For the Panjandrum to move in a straight line, the thrust from the rockets on the left wheel had to exactly match the thrust from the rockets on the right wheel at every single second. But these were cheap, mass-produced cordite rockets. They rarely burned evenly. If the right wheel spun slightly faster, the machine turned left. If it hit a patch of soft sand, it veered. In early trials, it turned right. It turned left. It tipped over. To fix this, they increased the number of rockets from 18 to over 70. But adding more power didn't solve the instability. It just meant that when it crashed faster and more violently. The DMWD refused to give up. They tried everything. When the wheels proved unstable, they added a third wheel to steady it. It crashed even harder. During trial number 4, in October 1943, they decided to steer it manually. They attached heavy steel cables to the central hub, connected to winches on the shore. Neville Shute himself manned the controls. The theory was that if the Panjandrum veered, they could haul it back on course using the cables. It was a disaster. The moment the rockets ignited, the 4,000-pound wheel generated so much momentum that it snapped the steel cables like cotton threads. The broken cables whipped back across the beach, flailing wildly, and nearly decapitated the operators. Neville Shute barely escaped with his life. Observers described the machine's path as a wild zigzag before it collapsed on its side, hissing and smoking in the wet sand. Yet, remarkably, they scheduled a final demonstration for the top brass. Which brings us back to January 12, 1944. The beach was lined with VIPs. The official cameraman, Louis Clementaski, set up his tripod to capture history. The signal was given. 70 rockets ignited simultaneously. The roar was deafening. At first, it looked perfect. The Panjandrum thundered into the sea, churning up water and heading for the shore. The generals nodded in approval. Then, disaster struck. A clamp gave way. One rocket broke free from the starboard wheel, then two. The machine began to lurch. It hit a small crater in the sand and turned. Clementaski, looking through his telescopic lens, realized with horror that the giant flaming wheel had reversed course and was heading straight for him. He ran for his life. The Admirals and Generals, men who had faced U-boats and the Blitz, completely abandoned their dignity. They scrambled up the pebble ridge, diving into barbed wire entanglements to escape their own invention. And then came Ammonal. The Airedale terrier, belonging to an army officer, decided that the rockets screaming across the beach looked like tremendous fun. As the British High Command cowered in the dirt, the dog sprinted after the disintegrating machine, barking joyfully at the sparks. The Panjandrum eventually crashed into the sea and exploded. The project was cancelled immediately. The Great Panjandrum was a spectacular failure. It solved nothing. But it is important to remember that the same department, the DMWD, also created the Hedgehog anti-submarine weapon, which sank 50 U-boats. You cannot have the genius without the madness. On D-Day, the Atlantic Wall was eventually breached, not by flaming wheels, but by Hobart's funnies, specialized tanks like the Sherman Crab Flail and the Churchill AVRE. These weapons worked because they were controllable, they had crews, they could aim. The Panjandrum failed because it relied on unguided physics that refused to cooperate. Yet, the Panjandrum remains a legend. It stands as a reminder that the price of innovation is occasionally chasing your own generals into barbed wire with a 10-foot flaming wheel. And frankly, some prices are worth paying. Subscribe to Ungentlemanly Engineering for more stories of British ingenuity, both the triumphs and the disasters.